Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. Charlie, I have to thank you for giving me the nudge to get new headphones. These sound good. Thank you, Charlie. He's like, I think you need new headphones. I think the other ones are bad. I'm like, okay, let's try it. Tried a new set last week, new pair last week. They just weren't right. Exchanged them for these. These are good. I like these. Thank you, Charlie Root. Okay, my friends, so as you are hearing this radio show, it is now officially summer. Now, you have to admit, the last few days have kind of felt like summer anyway, right? Because the weather patterns have finally changed. I think. Let's see what the next few days hold in store. Still a lot of northeast winds. And again, I hope we're not setting the stage, setting the scene for northeast winds all summer long. I was supposed to do last week a Wednesday night live on Saginaw Bay with Mr. AnglerQuest, Brad Dupuis, on his 2025 AnglerQuest QUEST, fishing out of Linwood Beach Marina for Saginaw Bay walleye. The plan was to have Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods join me, and also the chairman of the boards, Bruce DeShano, the guy who started Offshore Tackle, was really looking forward to that event. But as we're here, and that was supposed to happen tonight. As I'm here in the studio, it was supposed to happen tonight. But the weather is just a little bit screwy, and the forecast for this afternoon doesn't look so great. So I think we have put it on hold. Now, somebody told me in the live stream this morning, the Behind the Mic segment, and this is true. He said, in fact, it was Tim Binns. He says, Mike, I thought you always say never cancel a fishing trip based on a forecast. And I stand by that. But what I'm talking about is the night before. Unless it's calling for gale force winds and small craft, then you're pretty safe not canceling. But I'm saying if the weather forecast for the next day is a little iffy the night before, hold off. That's my advice. However, when you get a forecast in the morning of the same day and you can look out with your own eyes and see, all right, it doesn't look good, then I feel comfortable in postponing a trip. And that's what we are doing for Wednesday Night Live. Wednesday Night Live will now be this Wednesday coming up on Saginaw Bay with Mr. AnglerQuest QUEST, Brad Dupuis. And Brad did give me a little word of encouragement, too. He says, guess what? He said, your boat's done. The motor that had been on back order that we've been waiting for is here. We hung the motor. I'm going down to pick it up. Thank you, Mr. AnglerQuest, Brad Dupuis. All right, so the coolest thing that happened to me this last week since we've talked is I was able to go down to Mason, Michigan, to the Michigan High School Trap Shooting Tournament. There were shooters there from across the state. There were more than 1,000 shooters there from across the state. I was down there because my grandson Carter was shooting in that event. Now, Carter is a senior who just graduated, so this was his last one. So we went down there with Carter, watched him shoot, and watched his team shoot as well. They shot on Sunday because there are 2 high schools in the town where I live, and this year the coach for the high school where Carter goes or went or graduated from wasn't able to coach. So the shooters from our high school jumped over to the other high school, and the other high school graciously embraced them. So that made a pretty good size team, and the bigger teams shot on Sunday. So we were down there on Sunday. It was a very wonderful and impressive event. Don't let anybody ever tell you that kids and guns is a problem, because it's not. uneducated kids and disrespectful kids with guns could potentially be a problem, but not this event. 1,000 shooters, they all shot 100 rounds, so you're talking about 100,000 rounds shot. Not one act of violence, not one mass shooting, not even a negligent discharge. Nothing. 100,000 rounds out of 1,000 kids. It was common to see a young person walking along the road there, going to their trap field with a shotgun slung over their shoulder, or with cradling it in their arms, pointing it to the sky, or cradling it in their arms, pointing toward the ground, carrying it safely. And nobody gave it a second thought because we knew nothing bad was going to happen. Because these kids had been taught respect for shooting, for the gun, and respect for others. They had been taught how to shoot safely, and they had been taught the skill of shooting trap, a lifelong sport. I can't say enough about this. What a wonderful experience it was. I walked around the whole day with a smile on my face, and I kept thinking, for all the people in the news business, right? The I don't even know what to call it these days, who talk about how it's dangerous to put guns in kids' hands. No, it's not. It's dangerous to put guns in kids' hands who haven't been trained and taught and don't have respect. It was wonderful. We will know early next week here in Michigan whether you got your bear or elk tag. You didn't get an elk tag, I'm telling you right now. You may have gotten your bear tag, but you didn't get an elk tag. Just go into it with that mindset. You didn't get your elk tag, and if you did happen to lightning hit you on top of the head and get your elk tag, then it's all good. I did not put in for a bear tag. I put in for a bear point because it is my intent here in about a month, actually a little less now, to go to White River, Ontario to hunt bears with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters. Ron will be on the show with me next week. So if you didn't get a Michigan bear tag, Ron or some other Ontario outfitter might still have room for you. And the elk, good luck on that one. I will get a Michigan elk tag some point in my life, but it will be through the Pure Michigan Hunt. The golf outing is coming up fast here now. It's just over a month away. Go to mucc.org/golf to sign up, mucc.org/golf. The Rapid River, plans on the Rapid River knife. Progress, I should say. I will find out here shortly, as you do, because Chris Duerson of Rapid River is on the show. In fact, here's the lineup for the show this week. My first guest, Ryan Raymond, who is the new director of Michigan Friends of NRA. Now, they are associated with NRA, but they're more of the education and promotion arm of NRA. In fact, Friends of NRA put more than $100,000 into that Michigan high school trap shooting event last weekend. And they have grants available for high school trap shooting teams to pay for ammo and supplies. So we'll talk to Ryan about that. Then Dawn Levey of the Michigan Wildlife Council. In our second hour, that conversation with Kris Duerson, I want to find out how their Idaho bear hunt went. Kris had a big promotion, and they gave away an Idaho bear hunt for a color bear in Idaho. I followed it online. It looked like a great hunt. We will talk to Kris about that. Also, a lot of changes at Rapid River. The facilities themselves. If you've been up there, you'll know what a impressive place that is. Well, he's expanding it again. And then, of course, we'll find out the progress on the Mike Avery signature Rapid River knife, with proceeds going to a group called Outdoor Driven to get veterans and first responders in the outdoors to help them deal with some of the stuff that they've had to see and deal with throughout their career. Uh-oh, Charlie. Uh-oh. A little noise in that. Switch my input if you hearing that? So it wasn't my phone. So you made me spend all that money on headphones. It's gone now. Charlie's like, it's not my money. Well, I didn't need new headphones, but once Charlie brought it up, I thought, yeah, I think I do need new headphones. So we'll talk to Kris, and then Steve Windom of MUCC. He will have a report from 2 weeks ago now, last week, NRC meeting in Bay City. What happened there? Did they address the coyote issue or not? And then the Ask Avery segment. It's a good one this week. It's questioning why we have so many fish and game laws. I've asked the same question. If we're trying to encourage people to get outdoors, encourage people to go hunting and fishing, why does it sometimes feel like it's so hard to do it legally? Well, we'll talk about that. And then in hour number 3, Sir Lancelot, Lance Valentine. I finally had the chance to fish with Lance on Saginaw Bay, trolling for walleye last week. To see this guy in action was a real treat. I want to talk to him about that, his mindset, his thinking, why he does things the way he does. And then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. Show me your pictures. Send me your pictures, your questions, your comments, your stories. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Ryan Raymond of Michigan Friends of NRA coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. Check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. I fished out of Linwood Beach last week with Lance Valentine, and I was reminded what just a wonderful facility that is. I mean, the facility's great, the people are great, the location's great. If you are looking to get on Saginaw Bay for summertime walleye fishing, fall duck hunting, wintertime ice fishing, Linwood Beach Marina is a great place to jump off. The website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. All right, I was telling you about this event I was at last weekend in Mason, the Michigan State High School Trap Shooting Tournament. And I still am, absolutely in awe of that event. It was the perfect example of young people being taught to be around guns, to shoot, to use them safely with respect. And I just thought it was wonderful. Then I ran into a guy that I had not met before. I knew his predecessor very well, but Ryan Raymond is the fairly new director for Michigan Friends of NRA. Michigan Friends of NRA put over $100,000 into that event last weekend to help make it so successful. So I thought, you know what? It's time to get Ryan here on the show and talk about that and much more. And he has graciously agreed to join us. Ryan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Mike. Doing well.
It was very nice to meet you at that event. Wasn't that just I can't say enough about it. Again, I'm just in awe of it. It was perfect.
The amount of kids there, the amount of guns there, and how safe and well run they were, it was awesome.
Yeah, it certainly was. Now, what was your group's involvement in that event?
Well, we host banquets throughout the state and raise funds to support all of the area shooting teams and any clubs with grants to help fund any of their programs, their public programs. We're out there trying to get as many kids and as many people back into shooting as possible.
And you put over $100,000 into this event.
Yes, just that event alone, on a state level and a nation level, we put in over $100,000 just for that state event. Wow. And then we got nationals coming up here in July. We'll do the same thing for that event.
Are the nationals in Mason?
Yes, they are in Mason again this year.
That is a phenomenal trap shooting grounds, isn't it?
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. It is gorgeous.
All right, so let's talk about Michigan Friends of NRA. You are associated with NRA, but you're kind of the education or the promotion wing?
I've worked for the NRA, but I'm the field representative for the Friends of the NRA.
So what's the distinction there?
The distinction is the Friends program is a nonprofit 501(c), and we're not out recruiting for membership. We're out recruiting to keep the shooting sports alive here in the state, to help through funding of grants and programs through the NRA that promote safe shooting, teach kids safe shooting, and supply ammunition for these teams. You know how expensive it is for your grandson to shoot.
Yeah.
We supply.
Oh yes, I do. Yes, I do.
We supply these teams through grants. They go online to friendsoftheNRA.org, and there's a grant application process where they can apply for grants. And the main thing we like to give out to them is ammunition.
It's obvious to me why this is so important to you guys, but some folks might not get it. Why the emphasis on getting new shooters involved in our sport?
Because our sport will die without. I mean, you go to your area gun clubs right now, and they're aging out. We need these young shooters to join these programs, to join these shooting clubs, to keep it alive. You talk to any sportsman's club around, and they have the same old guys that still take care of the grounds, and their biggest fear is what happens when we're gone. What happens when we're gone and we don't have anybody to take our place?
Yeah, I think that's a valid concern.
It is. I mean, we won't have these places if we don't get the youth involved.
Is there used to be a program, I think it was even in the schools, Eddie Eagle, is that still around?
Yes, Eddie Eagle's still out there. You can apply for grants for the Eddie the Eagle program. They come into your schools, they teach the safety. That's why, if it's taught, there is nothing wrong with our sport. There is nothing wrong with it. You have less accidents with this than you do any other high school sport.
And thank you for saying that. Yeah, you're more likely to get hurt playing high school football than you are to get hurt shooting high school trap.
Yep. How many trainers did you see go out on the field this weekend?
and beyond that, Ryan, I saw kids being respectful, kids being friendly. I think these kids, I know, these kids who have been taught how to use a gun and respect for firearms, they understand that the tool that they have in their hands is the real deal. It's not just some toy. It's not a video game. And they act with respect, not just towards that tool, but also the environment and the people around them. You can see it. You can feel it.
Yep. You saw the air gun trailer there next to our booth. Those kids would come up there, and you wouldn't even have to tell them to keep their finger off the trigger or make sure that safety's on. Safety glasses. Do you have your glasses? You did not have to tell them that. They sit down. They knew exactly what to do.
Yeah. So what is your sense in working with the schools in general? About trying to get Eddie Eagle in or hunter safety classes. Are schools receptive, or were we dealing with the cream of the crop over the weekend and the schools who already get it? Are they an elite group? Are they different than most of the schools you deal with?
I on a personal level don't deal with the schools that much. It's through the grant program. Yeah. But there are quite a few schools out there that are taking advantage of that. Yeah. That are bringing the program in and teaching the safety. And it's very important.
Yeah, and I think it was you who told me that. I heard it from several people that trap shooting is the fastest growing high school sport in Michigan.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you know, you look at the kids out there. There's a lot of kids that would not earn a varsity letter if they had not had this opportunity to do this.
Yeah.
They're not good in baseball, basketball, football, but they're learning that team aspect. They're out there building bonds with people, and just like you said, they're learning respect. These are some of the most polite kids you would ever meet.
They really are. And you take that high school kid, the high school football player, because I'll use myself, I was one of them. That is not something you're going to carry over into life. You're not going to play in the NFL. You're probably not going to play Big Ten college football. But you can learn to shoot trap in high school, and you can continue to shoot trap all of your life.
Yes, yes. And there's also colleges out there offering scholarships.
Yeah.
There was 2 booths down from me this weekend, and there will be several probably at the national event. You know, you can get your college paid for through shooting.
I know right here in Michigan, help me out, the school, Hillsdale. Hillsdale is a big shooting school.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. We got Hillsdale. We had Almont teams there. We had teams from Livingston County. We had teams from Clare County. I saw Clare. They build a great program up there.
Yeah.
Midland Dow. It's amazing to just see them.
Now listen, it's called Midland Dow, but there were also shooters there from Bullock Creek and Midland High School. I just want to make that distinction.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm going to hear from people.
Well, some schools don't allow it, so they got to travel to other
exactly,
and shoot for other teams.
Exactly. So you, at Michigan Friends of NRA, you are raising funds to help young shooters, the Eddie Eagle program. I think you're also encouraging women to get involved in shooting too, right?
Yes, we have a Women on Target program that is funded through grants as well. Excellent event. Women can come out. It's strictly women at the event. They don't have that pressure of all the testosterone behind them. They get to learn how to safely handle a gun. And there's women that come to that never even shot before. And by the end, they're joining a club and they're joining a league and shooting trap. It's great.
I know you can't get involved in the political side of things, but is it just your sense, Ryan, personally, that is acceptance of the shooting sports here in Michigan and maybe the country in general, what do you see? I mean, we were really leaning towards heavy-duty gun control a few years ago. Now I feel like that's letting up a little bit. Do you feel that? Do you see that?
I see a lot more schools and I see a lot more team shooting, and it's growing. It's not shrinking; it's growing. Yeah. So it's got to be accepted more than it has been in the past. You know well when we were young, we never had this opportunity.
No,
there was never anything like this in school for me.
No, there wasn't. But in the same regard, I could throw a shotgun in the back of my truck and leave it out in the parking lot at school too. So you can't do that now. So things have changed.
Yeah.
Ryan, hang tight. I got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. I know you are actually at NRA meetings, so I appreciate your time, but I got to take a quick break. We're talking with Ryan Raymond, the director of the Michigan Friends of NRA, the website friendsofnra.org, friendsofnra.org. After the break, I want to talk with Ryan about these fundraising dinners, these banquets they put on across the state, and then how schools, in particular, I'm thinking right now, Michigan high school trap shooting teams can apply for one of these grants. The deadline is coming up, so you don't want to drag your feet. So it's friendsofnra.org, friendsofnra.org. We'll continue our conversation with Ryan. Then we'll wrap up the hour with Dawn Levey of the Michigan Wildlife Council. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your mind, what you like, what you don't like, what's making you mad, what's making you happy. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. And also north of the bridge in the Sioux, WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. Killer Food Plots owner Rich Krizan, I talked to him just the other day. He's been busy. He was trying to get as much dirt turned, as much seed in the ground as he could before the rains came in. And I'm sure he got a lot of work done. He's a hard-working guy. He's got a great company. It's Michigan-based, family-owned. You know I love that. Check out the website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. to see the services that Rich can provide, also the different seeds that he can offer. There's still time to get those food plots in, although if you wait much longer, you're probably going to have to wait till a little bit later in the summer. Also, keep an ear out for the Killer Food Plots podcast as well. The website, killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. Right now, though, talking with Ryan Raymond. He is the director of the Michigan Friends of NRA, the website friendsofnra.org, friendsofnra.org. Ryan, you said that you guys are raising funds by having banquets across the state. What are those like? What do they look like?
A banquet, basically a great time. It's we have live auction, silent auction, great meals, plenty of games to win guns. We give away a lot of guns at these banquets, so you can pay to play games. You can win stuff on the live auction. You can win stuff on the silent auction. Different raffles throughout the state. We hold raffles online at the Friends of the NRA website. You can go to put in Michigan, and you can see all the events that are coming up. And if they have an online raffle, you can buy tickets right there online. All those funds from all of these banquets throughout the state, that's where we get our money for our grants.
So you have these different dinners, these different banquets. You have a schedule for the year. I'm not actually necessarily looking for it, but you're good to go for the year, or are you looking for additional venues?
Oh, we're definitely trying to build back the state. We used to have 25 banquets in the state of Michigan. We're down to about 12. I have several areas that I'm still trying to get them, up in the West Branch area, Mason County, Jackson, Cadillac, Reed City, Grand Rapids, Big Rapids, and all across the UP. We travel all the way through the UP if we have to. Not if we have to, we want to. We'll go all the way up to Houghton Hancock and throw a banquet.
Well, some of these areas you talked about are hunting hot spots. I would think that you could get something put together. How does that happen, and how much work is involved?
For the committee,
yeah,
it's a little bit of a commitment. You got a couple months of planning. The biggest thing is getting people in the room. We need to get at least 150 people in the room to throw a successful banquet, and we can go from there. My job is to help you set up, and I have all the tools to throw a successful banquet. I've got all the games. I've got all. It's not that hard of a thing to do. The biggest thing is to be able to get people into a room. I can find a venue. I can find a caterer. We can work together and we can throw a successful banquet. We actually have a new one coming up here in Clare this year, in Clare County.
Well, you've got it down to a science, right? I mean, you know how these things work. You've done a ton of them, and you make it as easy as possible for the locals. You say you got a new one in Clare. That's great.
Yep. We got a new banquet in Clare. That's going to be on September 11th at Tobacco Ranch. Very excited about it. And we have probably 8 to 10 banquets left in the state of Michigan for this year. So if people go out to the website, put in Michigan, you'll see what banquets in their area, and they can come out and support us.
And again, that website, friendsofnra.org, friendsofnra.org, and go to the Michigan part of that website to see everything that Ryan is involved in. Okay, Ryan, so these dinners, these banquets, you raise money. Part of that money goes towards high school trap shooting teams for ammo and such. Again, how does it, because I know I have coaches listening right now, How does a coach tap into these funds? What do they do?
They go to the Friends of the NRA website, and there will be a spot there that says grants. You click on that. The grants open up for requests on August 5th, and there is a deadline, and you got to get them in before that deadline. It's as simple as filling out paperwork to make sure you qualify, and then once you qualify, it throws you right into a shopping cart where you can pick ammo, guns, safety equipment, everything out there is for shooting needed. And then once they fill out that grant, which with most high schools, everybody needs that ammunition. They fill it out for the ammunition, and a skid of ammo arrives at their door. But it all depends on how much we make over the year and how much we can give out. Last year we had over $500,000 in grant requests, and we had $116,000 to hand out.
So you need these dinners. You need these banquets. I thought, and I got to let you go, but I thought the deadline was August 5th. But you're saying the process doesn't start until August 5th.
It opens on August 5th.
Perfect. Ryan Raymond, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your support of the Michigan High School Trap Shooting Tournament last weekend. The website, friendsofnra.org, friendsofnra.org. Click on the Michigan link. It will take you to all the events coming up in Michigan. If you want to be a part of things, have a good night, have a good time, spend some money, maybe win a gun, and help the shooting sports. Check them out, friendsofnra.org. We'll take a break. When we come back, Dawn Levey of the Michigan Wildlife Council right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing, WILS 1320 AM, and north of the bridge in Escanaba, WCHT 600 AM 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by, let's see who it's brought to you by, VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set and snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern? You can do it in less than a minute. If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins owner Paul Perrone can help you out. If you are a saddle hunter, VersaSkins is perfect for you there. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com, or go to amazon.com and do a search for VersaSkins brand. VersaSkins, just change your skin for the season you're in. I want to wrap up this first hour of the show talking with my friends at the Michigan Wildlife Council, a group that I have supported since they were first formed, since they were first chartered here in Michigan, a group I have much respect for because they are here to show the rest of the state the role of us as hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers. Dawn Levey is a member of that council, and she's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Dawn, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that phone line. It's so much better than it was last time.
For sure.
So
it all depends on where I'm at.
Don't move right now, okay? Don't move.
I'm not moving.
So how have you been? We ran into each other and we talked at the MUCC convention a few months ago. How have you been since then?
Very good. Busy as always. I wear numerous hats that keep me really, really busy, and that's the way I like it.
Well, busy is always good. Let's talk about your hat for the Michigan Wildlife Council and their Here for Generations campaign. I think it's pretty cool to be a member of that group, but I want to get your perspective on it.
So I'm pretty new to the group, but I'm finding it really exciting to be part of the group because the work we're doing is really impressive, and I'm learning so much. I think you never stop learning, but the general public's perception, especially non-hunters, I'm finding very, very interesting.
How so?
Well, I guess I think because I grew up in a hunting family, and my family is a hunting family, my children, my grandchildren, I never thought about people who didn't know hunters. And people who know hunters are more supportive of hunting, fishing, and trapping than those that don't. So I found that interesting. But also, a lot of people who don't hunt, or especially people in urban areas, if you're hunting for food, they're so supportive. If you're hunting for trophies, not so much. And I found it really, really interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you on this, because I just assumed in my naivete in my younger years that everybody embraced hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, because I did, because like you, that's the way I grew up. I was brought up. I raised my family that way. Everybody in my family is like that. But in today's world, Dawn, we are outnumbered by people who not necessarily are anti-hunters, but people who don't participate. That's the bulk of the population now in Michigan, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the lack of understanding, and to know how much hunters and anglers put into our economy, but also that they're conservationists. And with license fees, and that we support and maintain a healthy population, and that's done by hunters, fishers, anglers, and trappers. And the general public doesn't know that unless we inform them. And that's a big part of what the Wildlife Council does. And that's exciting.
So is the Here for Generations campaign, is that talking about the financial impact of hunters and anglers and shooters and trappers, or the lifestyle and the history and heritage of, or a combination?
It's a combination thereof, and we're going to be changing the presentation by the council soon. We're updating our PR format, and I think it's exciting. And again, we'll be focusing on protecting Michigan's legacy and how that happens. So I'm really excited about that. And I mean, I've seen some of the new material, which I can't share yet. But
don't do that.
Exciting.
Don't tease me like that.
I'm going to tease you like that, because we're going to be using actual hunters and anglers, and it's pretty exciting. So it's more to come.
And I
am going to tease you.
Well,
a little.
I have to accept that. I know it's coming. I know that there's a difference, a little change in direction, and I think it's wonderful, because for the last several years now, hunters and anglers I talk with have been like feeling a little left out of this whole thing. But the message is not designed for us. It's designed for others. But if we can include people in our community in that message, it's all good. And Dawn Levey of the Michigan Wildlife Council, I appreciate you doing that. Thank you for serving on the council, and we'll talk again.
Oh, we will, and thank you. And I'm so glad we could talk this time.
So am I. We had phone problems last time. Dawn, appreciate your time. We'll let you go. Dawn Levey of the Michigan Wildlife Council, the website here for MIOutdoors.org. Here for MIOutdoors.org. The campaign is Here for Generations. And isn't that what we all want? Don't we want this world that you and I live in, this outdoor lifestyle, these passions, history and tradition, the heritage? Don't we want that to continue for generations? Well, that's what the Michigan Wildlife Council is all about. We'll take a break. When we come back in our second hour, Kris Duerson of Rapid River Knives and Steve Windom of MUCC right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. And welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across our great state of Michigan. And do I have to tell you once again that I really think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM outdoor magazine affiliate. There you get your local news and weather and sports and even your local commercials. Maybe there's a sale or something you want to take advantage of. But again, Outdoor Magazine Radio. This show is a radio show. It is distributed, produced, recorded as a radio show. Isn't it nice to know, though, that if you can't listen to the broadcast version of the show, if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if, God forbid, you live in some small part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast version of the show that is available? You can hear that podcast, and it's the exact same content. It's just available in different places. For example, you can hear the podcast of my show on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, X, LinkedIn, Apple Music, yada, yada, Spotify, Deezer, Odyssey, YouTube, the whole gamut, right? It's everywhere. Anywhere where you can hear a podcast, you can hear the podcast version of my Outdoor Magazine radio show. I do like podcasting, though, too, and each month I do podcasts for some of my advertising partners, including Killer Food Plots, Offshore Tackle, and Angler Quest Boats, Angler Quest Quest. In fact, we're going to do, Charlie, when we're done here in the studio recording this week's radio show, I need to record this month's Angler Quest podcast, so keep an ear out for that. Okay, I've got you kind of trained by now, right? What is this sound? I'll give it to you again. This sound right here. You know immediately that is the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. I just pulled it out of my pocket where it lives this knife has lived its entire life in my pocket. And it'll be there forever. I am a big fan of Rapid River knives, and I'm a big fan of the man behind them, Kris Duerson, who is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Kris, welcome back. How have you been?
I've been great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing real good, but listen, I want to talk to you about this adventure you just got back from, this Idaho bear hunt, and you took one of your customers. Tell me about this. How did it go?
Yeah, we had a big bear hunt giveaway, and we're getting ready to launch our new base camp series of knives. It's another line of knives. It's basically completely indestructible and with an axe and a Bowie knife and a bushcraft and all that kind of stuff in it. And we thought, let's go to Idaho and stay in an actual base camp, and let's take somebody with us. And we have no idea who they are. One of our customers, one of our fans. So we did a giveaway, and we had 420,000 entrants.
Hold on.
Few more than we expected.
Holy cow!
Yeah. So we went up into the Seven Devils Range of the Rocky Mountains, up in the Hell's Canyon in northern Riggins, Idaho, and Greg shot an absolutely gorgeous cinnamon color-phased bear on the second night there.
So who's Greg? He was your winner?
Greg Hollister, yeah. I think he's from Everett.
Oh, he's a Michigan guy.
He's a Michigan guy, yeah. He funny story. The first guy that won it, that actually won it, I called him and I had to explain to everybody that we're going to one of the most rugged places on earth, and just wanted to make sure that people could get around. You know, if you go to the outhouse up there at tent camp, you're going 60 feet uphill or 60 feet downhill. So it's rugged, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that won it says, "Well, I'm having carpal tunnel surgery done the day that we're supposed to leave." And I had kind of mentioned, well, okay, well, I mean, if you want to go, you can go. If you can get that surgery pushed off a little bit. And he's like, well, I think I'm just going to take the second place prize, which was a Jay's gift card. You can't, you right?
Oh, okay.
So then he told his son everything that he turned down, which was a $1,500 Jay's gift card, the bear hunt, a full series of base camp knives. His son, he called me back the next day and he wanted to know if he could still go, but I had already contacted the second place winner. And so Greg went with us, and we took our film crew and our social media guys, and 10 of us went up into the mountains and filmed the whole experience from the time we left to the airports to the journey getting there. We filmed the hunts. and tent camp and base camp and all the knives being used. We got Greg's hunt on film. It was a great experience.
So what was Greg's reaction when you called him? He knew right away what it was about. You didn't have to explain it to him, did you?
He thought I was scamming him. And he did. Because the package was worth a little over $10,000. And he thought I was scamming him. So he's very skeptical. And I just said, listen, I don't know what you signed up for this. So I sent him the flyer again, and while we were on the phone, and he looked at it, and he says, "Oh, yeah, you know what? I do remember signing up for that." So we started talking, and it's when you get that many entrants, you don't really know who you're going to get.
Exactly.
You don't know what's going to happen, if that person is going to be great or if they make the trip miserable. Hell's Canyon is not a place you want to be with somebody you have to babysit. So, but Greg was awesome. That bear hunt was on his bucket list. So it was an incredible week. It was very physically demanding, but other than that, it was just, we couldn't ask for a better trip.
Yeah, I was following your adventures online, and I got to see, I haven't met Greg yet, but I got to see him, the video of him, and he looked like a great guy, and a really good hunt. And just like you said, a color bear. So how cool is that?
Oh, it's amazing. We just don't have any up here in Michigan. And I think about 70% of the bears in Idaho where we were hunting are actually color-phased bears. So
wow.
They don't typically get huge out there just for that reason. People go there because they want a good chance at a color phase. So the first 200-pound color phase bear they see, they harvest it. And so they don't get huge. But Greg's bear was an absolutely beautiful bear. There's a Matt that works at the knife shop there went with us, and he shot a beautiful color phase bear. My son Caden shot about a 400-pound black bear.
Oh, geez.
Black bear.
Jeez.
A huge bear at 60 yards with a 308. He flipped him over on his back, and his legs went rigid, and his outfitter, the guide, fist bumped him, and they looked up, and the bear jumped up and dove over into Fall Creek, which goes 2,000 feet down into a canyon. And so we spent the entire next day looking for his first bear and never found it.
That's heartbreaking, but that is part of hunting, isn't it?
Yeah. I said, well, welcome to the club.
Yeah. Oh, man.
He's like, what club? I said, well,
I don't want to be a part of that club, Dad.
The club that every hunter's in. Yeah.
Did you get a chance to shoot a bear?
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. We had I think we took about 70 knives with us. So we got video and photos, and we caped the knives out the bears out with all the knives, and used all our new knives, and we used them in the kitchen, in the cook shack. We used them everywhere. It was great.
Did you get a chance to hunt, or were you just out there working?
I did. I could have, but I was just there to get a lot of content, get a lot of cool photos, and to kind of. I bought a bear tag and a wolf tag in case I had a chance, because you just never know where we were at. But I did not.
No, I get it. So you can hunt wolves in Idaho.
Yeah, it's $31 for a tag.
Oh my goodness!
You buy it right over the counter. Yeah. Everybody there had a wolf tag. We did not see any wolves to shoot, but we weren't actually wolf hunting. We were sitting over baits that had crackers and cookies and that kind of thing on.
Well, in the UP, as you well know, I don't care what kind of bait you put out, you're likely to see wolves coming into it.
Yeah, exactly. And even on the drive-in out there, you have to go through about. So from Riggins to where a base camp, it's only about 30 miles, but it's a 2.5-hour trip, because you're going through you have about 6 miles of switchbacks that go up 5,000 feet. So you're literally riding in a car. I had to get everybody mentally ready for that.
Hang tight,
you're
Kris.
riding in a car with your hand out, your hands literally on the door, with the window down and your seatbelt off, because the road is as wide as the car.
All right, you're making me nervous.
Look out the window,
you're making me nervous just hearing this story.
It's something else, but you'll never forget it. So,
Kris, hang tight. I got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. I can think about this trip now in my mind for the next 4 minutes, and I think I'm going to throw up. Anyway, we're talking with Kris Duerson of Rapid River Knives, the website rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com. When we come back, Kris has got exciting things happening at that Rapid River shop, and I want to know, hey, what's the progress on the Avery signature knife? That's coming up after the break with Kris Duerson. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by... Yeah, that's right. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife locking back open. You know, I'm a big fan of Rapid River Knives. Check out their showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. Go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Coincidentally, Kris Duerson, the man behind Rapid River Knives, is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Kris, I forgot to ask you one more question regarding your giveaways. Now, this Idaho bear hunt was a tremendous adventure, but I think you've got more of them coming up, don't you?
We do. I just a couple days ago, we locked in a southern Ohio whitetail hunt for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th of January, muzzleloader hunt. So we're gonna take somebody to southern Ohio and muzzleloader hunt down in an area where there's been a lot of Boone and Crockett whitetail shot. So we just locked that in a few days ago, and we already have an African safari lined up for August of 26, and I'm guessing we're gonna squeeze another one in here between the whitetail hunt and the safari. So it's just a lot of fun.
That African, the safari, that's with my buddy Craig Plowman, isn't it?
It is. Yes,
Excellent.
It is.
Good deal.
Yep.
Good deal. There's so many things going on at Rapid River. Now, if people have been to your shop, they know what I'm talking about. This thing it's a destination. It is a museum. It is a retail store. It is a manufacturing facility all in one. But you're not quite done there yet, are you?
Oh no, we're still going. Every day we're doing new projects. I think you're going to be seeing your first prototype of your knife, your signature series knife here. On Friday is what I'm pushing for.
Really nice.
We're working on some really neat projects. The guy that Tom Farnquist, he was in charge of going down and retrieving the bell from the Edmund Fitzgerald. He's got more dives on the Great Lakes than every other diver combined. We're actually doing a 50th anniversary knife of the sinking of the Fitzgerald. And during the recovery of the bell, just coincidentally, they had recovered a lot of taconite, which is that iron ore that was in the boat. And so you're going to get, with the Fitzgerald anniversary knife, you're going to get a chunk of that taconite buried in the display stand for the knife that was on the boat.
Wow!
You're going to get a piece of the taconite that the Fitzgerald was carrying when it went down. So. A lot of cool stuff. That's just a few of them. We're really excited about yours. We never stop.
Well, and aren't you doing another expansion too?
Yeah, we're in the middle of that. We're doing all the fun zoning, all of the zoning stuff right now. start working with some of these townships, and they're licking their lips for the tax money, but they're not being easy on me. So,
well,
we're going through the process.
What more? How big can you make this place? I mean, you're gonna. I look at you and I think of Jay's Sporting Goods. They built a new facility. They thought they would never fill it, and they outgrew it and had to grow again. I feel like that's you, Kris Duerson.
It is. In 2018, we put up the new facility, and there was still a wall right between us and the new facility, and I took a hammer and busted a hole through that wall and looked into the new part, and I thought, there's no way I'm gonna. This is it. This is all I need forever, and it's full. It's completely full. We're out of room for manufacturing. We're out of room for retail. We're out of room for everybody. We can't even get more employees. We don't have a place to put them. So we're working on several different solutions and avenues to it's just got to get bigger or we stop. I'm 47 years old, but I don't want to stop. So I think if you're not moving and going forward, I think you're dying. So I'm going to keep moving.
What is it about Rapid River, though? There are other Michigan knife companies, but they don't have the status. They don't have the name. They're not growing like Rapid River. What is it that sets you guys apart?
Almost 25 years. It's 24 years of just, really devoted customer service and high-quality products. And it's just, you meet great people, and those people just end up being customers forever. And whether it's a knife or a hat or anything, they like to stop by that store to say hi because every time they come in, it's different. We've got different taxidermy and different knives and different products, and so basically from Memorial Day weekend through December 24th, it's just an absolute madhouse in there. And then the slower months, we're busy trying to rebuild because as most people know that know us, the day before Christmas, we've sold completely out of knives. We don't have anything left in the entire building, and it's 18,000 square feet. There's not a knife even in the back being built. Everything that we can do is done. So we have to go back to work and fill it up, and then go to work and do a lot of these, I like to do a lot of the custom builds and things like that during that time of year, but it's just like we have a huge family. We don't just say, what knife do you want? And, here's how much it is. We when you buy one of our knives, you're just a part of our family and our team.
Did you ever think 24 years ago it would grow into what it has?
No. You think about it, but, nothing like this. It's crazy. It's just crazy.
Well, you talk about being part of the family, part of the team. I mean, and one of the reasons for that is when you buy a knife from Rapid River, it's guaranteed for life. Somebody, if they have a problem, or if they just want it sharpened again, you might well see that customer again with that knife walking in the door.
Oh, yeah, and it happens all the time. Yeah, and I get people. I just had a guy the other day that walked in. He had the tip broke off his knife, and he was a mess. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, I was using it for something I shouldn't have been using it for, and I was screwing this or doing that, doing something with it he shouldn't have been doing. And he was honest with me, so I walked him over to the case where all those knives were, and I said, well, just pick another one out. And he looked at me funny like I was going to charge him, and he picked one out, and I handed it to him, and I took the broken one, and I went and tossed it in the trash, and I said, there you go. Warranty's fixed, and the guy, he was just blown away.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
So
how would that story...
It's easier to do that than stand there and argue with somebody for a half an hour and then lose them as a customer.
Well, that's a good point. But let me ask you this. Had that guy walked in and said, hey, I was cutting an apple with this and the tip broke off, and he's not telling you the truth, how does the story end any differently, Kris?
No, it doesn't. I'll get the answer out of them eventually. I mean, you can tell almost on every knife what was done to it. If a knife breaks in a certain spot, the guy wasn't cutting an apple. You'll never break one of our knives cutting an apple. So I'll tell them that. Like, I'll joke with them like, all right, really, what were you really doing? And then when they realize that you're not going to send them packing, that like you want to help, then they tell you the real story. And some of them are amazing, the things people do with them. But it's better to do that. I mean, early on, 20 some years ago, I would argue with somebody, and I realized this doesn't help. It doesn't help anybody, And so now everybody's going to leave happy, no matter what. They're going to leave happy. So
I discovered another one of your products the other day, and it's your sharpener. Now, I know I can send my knife back to you guys, or I can stop by the shop and you'll sharpen it. But you and I don't live next door to each other. It's kind of a drive for me to get there. So I got these sharpeners, and I got one. Sue sent me one, and it's like, I really like this thing. So the other day, Kris, I went on the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. I used the promo code Avery15, and I bought 3 more of those sharpeners. I love those. I got one in my pocket. I got one in my truck. I got one in my office. I got one in my tackle box. I mean, I love these things. It's another nice little product.
They're excellent. I met the guy that originally designed that at the Archery Trade Association show 23 years ago in Indianapolis, and he was selling that sharpener as a broadhead sharpener. And I saw it as, hey, this is before any other knife sharpener had ever hit the market. It was a whetstone or it was nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I walked up to the guy. I didn't know him from anybody, and I said, do you want to sell 500 of these or 5 million of these? And he looked at me like I was 20-year-old kid, right? And he says, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, I don't know anybody that shoots a deer with and then retrieves the arrow in the broadhead and then resharpens it and trusts the broadhead to put back on an arrow to go back out and shoot another deer with. And so I took one of my knives, I ground it on the concrete at the convention hall, and I put it up on the table and I pulled it through it, and I sharpened that thing again, almost like a factory edge.
Yeah.
And he didn't believe me. He wasn't changing anything. And so I bought 100 sharpeners. I came back. I sold them in the first week as knife sharpeners. I did it again the second week. And he finally said, how are you selling all these? You're selling more sharpeners than I'm selling to all my customers. I told him I'm selling them as they're knife sharpeners to me. So he actually changed the entire company over to a knife sharpening company. And we've sold over 100,000 of those things in 20 years. It's amazing. And now we have them in a bunch of different colors, and they're just easy. Knife sharpening is very easy. You have to have the same angle on each side of the blade. It's very hard to do, almost impossible to do with a whetstone. So we make it really easy to do with this knife sharpener.
Real quick, Kris, before I let you go, when do you think the Avery signature, a Rapid River knife, that the proceeds going to benefit Outdoor Driven, when will that be available for customers?
That's going to be available for them to start ordering them. Pre-orders the first week in July,
okay.
And customers are going to start getting them in the mail second, third week in July. Yeah.
Excellent, because I have people right now saying we want to pre-order those. So you and I will stay in touch on that one. Good luck on the expansion. Good luck on all your efforts, and thanks for being a great partner. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yep. Thanks for everything, Mike.
Kris Duerson of Rapid River Knife Works, the website rapidriverknifeworks.com, rapidriverknifeworks.com. You heard it from the man right there. Look for the Mike Avery signature Rapid River knife with proceeds to benefit Outdoor Driven to get veterans and first responders in the outdoors. Look for that in early July. We're trying to get just the perfect bright red, blood red color, and we'll go from there, and I think we're very close. Steve Windom of MUCC coming up. You know what that sound is. Want to hear it again? I don't know why I was surprised to hear that music. It happens several times every show after a 4-minute break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Port Huron, WPHM 1380 AM. Let's go to Newberry. I want to go to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by, how about the Truck Trolley? Michigan-based, family-owned. You know what? Two things right there. Michigan-based, family-owned. I love it. Why try to jump into the bed of your truck or reach way over there or use the old man hook like I used to get items that have slid to the forward to the bed of your truck? Put it on a truck trolley, slide it out. You can get to it. You can use it for hunting stuff, fishing stuff, golf stuff, groceries, landscaping. I don't care what you put in the bed of your truck. If you want to be able to reach it, put it on a truck trolley and just slide it out so it's easy to get. Trucktrolley.com. That's trucktrolley.com. All right, let's talk now with Steve Windom of MUCC. Steve is just a really interesting guy. He's become a friend of mine. He is there, I don't know. Steve, what's your title at MUCC?
Director of Development and Membership.
I don't know why I can never think of that. I just think of you as one of the guys at MUCC who gets things done, and I feel like everybody there in your organization, and there aren't many of you, you wear a lot of hats and you get things done.
Yeah, we are a team of 10 with an intern and an AmeriCorps volunteer as well. So there's 10 full-time staff, and we're here to protect everybody's right to hunt, fish, trap, and shoot recreationally.
I know this is not your main area of concern, but can you give me a report on what happened at the NRC meeting in Bay City? Did they address the coyote issue, or is it once again, as you guys are saying, kicking the can down the road?
So it's actually a positive development. And so I talked with Justin Tomei, our Director of Policy and Advocacy, and so he gave me some talking points. So, I have myself prepared today for you, Mike.
All right.
We see what happened at the NRC meeting as a positive. What they did is they untabled the issue, which means they will consider and add for action, ideally in August meeting. They will be voting on that topic. And so there's laws around 30 days on the agenda, public comment, time for people to address these issues. So it was untabled, which was a good thing. And then it will be considered and then up for action in August. And Justin's going to keep working with the NRC to make sure that we reopen the year-round season before the 2026 closure if the vote doesn't go through. But so we won't have it to reopen before July 15th this year, but in August, it'll be on the agenda.
All right. Well, I think that's good to hear. How did your big charity shoot go?
Oh, Westside Charity Shoot was great. We sold out the event. We had one flight of shooters. We were at the Caledonia Sportsman's Club. Awesome facility. Any of our Westside listeners, definitely go check out Caledonia Sportsman's Club. Great trap, great sporting plays, awesome 3D archery, great guys out there. We had over 60 shooters. We had all kinds of fun raffles. We had a rabbit raffle, so we had a rabbit hole. Beautiful weather, great day, and so we'll be bringing that event back next year. So look for another mid-June event back at Caledonia Sportsman's Club.
All right, and then the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors golf outing coming up Friday, July 25th at the West Branch Country Club to benefit MUCC's youth camp. How are registrations coming?
We are doing good, up over 50% of the way there. Lots of verbal commitments. We've got our hole-in-one challenge for the car again. We're going to have an AR golf ball launcher. We've got some cool challenge holes. Lots of cool raffle items coming in right now with firearms and gear and equipment. Still looking for sponsors. Still lots of time to sign up as a sponsor, sign up as a foursome. We do anticipate this event's going to sell out, and so definitely don't wait on it. Get it done now. Beautiful day up in West Branch, Michigan.
Yeah, I'm quite confident it will indeed sell out because everybody we had there last year, and with a first-year event, you know probably better than I do, you never quite know how it's going to turn out. I looked at last year as a proof of concept. Will this work? Is it a good idea? And I think the answer was a resounding yes. I think it's going to be a very good event this year. Again, proceeds going to MUCC's youth camp. Why is that important? Why do you need that money, Steve?
Well, yeah, actually, there's campers there this week as we, when the show airs and as we record, we have our first week of day campers down there. The youth of our state and even from out of state are able to shoot archery, shoot 22s, fish and kayak and canoe and learn about the North American model of wildlife conservation. They can get hunter safety certified. It is really allowing the next generation to instill and strengthen and start their very own outdoor heritage.
That hunter safety class is that's a big deal because I get requests all the time. Mike, where can we find a hunter safety class for our kids? Well, MUCC's youth camp is one place.
And good news, we've got through the House, it got passed our bill to reinstate hunter safety back into schools. So we've got a bill right now that will allow for credit to be earned during the school day for schools to reinstate their hunter safety programs for their local youth.
Excellent. I need to talk to you or Justin about that on future shows. Again, mucc.org/golf. If you would like to join us in West Branch, Friday, July 25th for the second annual Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing. This is to benefit MUCC's youth camp. If you want to golf, if you want to help sponsor the event, and by the way, Security Credit Union jumped up and helped sponsor big time, but we're looking for more money. I have a goal in my mind about how much money I would like to raise. I have put it out privately. I don't think I've said it publicly. I don't think I will, but you can help us get there. mucc.org/golf. Thank you, Steve Windom. We'll talk again soon. We'll take a break. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Manistee, WMLQ 97.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge. Let's go to Marquette. Let's go to WDMJ 1320 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And again, a big thank you to Security Credit Union and their foundation for really stepping up and helping to sponsor this year's Mike Avery Outdoors Charity Golf Outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp. I do really appreciate that. Now, you know this by now, but the way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can ask me a question, something you want me to address directly, or something you want me to pass along to somebody else, MUCC, DNR, or whatever. This time around, it was Robert Clock of Freeland. He sent me a very interesting email. The first part of it was talking about my comments, I think it was just last week, about block permits and people being able to shoot on block permits without having a hunting license, and we talked about that. And he has some thoughts on it. But he follows up with a very, very interesting question. And this is kind of long, but I might read it all. He says, the real reason, this is Robert Clock, he says, the real reason for writing is to ask you, and maybe the DNR's opinion, about their convoluted rules and regulations. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, now I'm dialing into this. DNR and sportsmen say we are losing hunters at a rapid pace. That should be a concern. Yet they, the DNR, keep making hunts more complicated and expensive. Things such as one long season for deer as opposed to multiple seasons for deer hunting. Currently, an odd starting and end dates for deer season as opposed to one season. Since we have too many deer in parts of the state to go to earn a buck where a doe might be taken, how about giving first-time deer hunters a huge discount on their license as they do seniors? He says we have a ton of public land in Michigan to hunt. Harvest rules should be the same on public lands as private. These are just a few of the convoluted rules and regulations and just a few ideas. However, I believe we need to have a good discussion about this. Robert, I could not agree with you more. We need to have a discussion about this. I have actually brought this up on the show, at least a few times, about the convoluted and the confusing fish and game laws in Michigan. Why does it have to be so hard to be legal? Why do we have to carry the digest or the app now on our phones in our pockets to make sure we don't do something illegal? Shouldn't it be that, all right, if you go out there after dark with a spotlight to shoot a buck, you're poaching, you're violating, right? You're doing this intentionally. Why are there so many rules and regulations that make it say if you put the shotgun of your shotgun on your tailgate when you come in from bird hunting at lunch, why is that an uncased gun in a motor vehicle? Why? Why can we not throw a few apples out or a little bit of corn out to attract deer? If you really want us, DNR, if you really want us to harvest more deer, give us the tools to do that. And for many hunters, I'm not talking about the elitists, I'm talking about the average Joe Blow weekend warrior hunter. For many hunters, the tool of being able to throw out a little bit of bait would help those hunters, me included, take a deer. Where I hunt in the fall, our lease property is surrounded by people who use bait. Where do you think the deer go? They don't go to our property. They go to where the bait is. They don't go in front of me. I don't have bait in front of me. I can't do that. I would if I could, but I can't. I think it's time, and this is, there was a recodification of those laws. It's been 30 years at least, maybe longer now. I do think it's time to take a serious look at our fish and game laws and simplify them and make it down to, okay, here's when the seasons start, here's when they end. Here's what you can use, here's what you can't. The bulk of my Ask Avery questions are questions about laws that hunters and anglers are confused about because the laws themselves are confusing. Why do we have a limit on the number of rods a Great Lakes trolling angler can use? The resource is already protected by the creel limit and the size limit. On Saginaw Bay, you can take 8 fish of 13 inches. Doesn't matter. Why should it matter how many rods you use to get to that point? That's just one more thing, and this is a minor thing in the food chain of trying to stay legal and do the right thing. And it's one more thing for conservation officers to try to keep track of. Shouldn't their main concern be the number and size of fish you have, not how you got them? Yes, Robert, I agree with you. It is past time to simplify our fish and game laws in Michigan. You could make that digest a quarter the size that it is. Here's the problem. You have to have the will in Lansing to make it happen. And I don't think the will is there. I think they're more concerned about fighting CWD. I think they're more concerned about, I don't know, pick your plan, pick your program. But I think if this is brought up, and I will bring this up, I think I'm going to be told, well, we don't have the resources to make this happen. We don't have the money to make it happen. I can't argue with that. I'm not inside Lansing. I don't know what the answer is there. From the outside, it seems like maybe we should be doing it. That's what I think. And Robert Clock, I agree with you. It's time to simplify Michigan hunting and fishing laws. Get more people involved. Keep the people who are involved. Thank you, Security Credit Union, for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online, securitycu.org. Thank you, Robert Clock. Hour number 3 coming up.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. And welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show on this first official weekend of the Michigan summer. How you doing? What have you been up to? Having any fun at all? I tell you what, I had some fun this last week. I had a chance finally to fish Saginaw Bay with my good friend Lance Valentine. Now, Lance was helping me out. I had to do one of my charity charters, a trip that I gave away for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation folks, and I didn't have the new Angler Quest yet. I said, Lance, can we go fishing with you? Because I'm killing two birds with one stone here, right? I'm getting my friends from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation on the water, including my good friend Craig Plowman. And I'm getting a chance to fish with Lance Valentine. Now, I have fished with Lance before, but never trolling for walleye on Saginaw Bay. I've known Lance forever. I've talked with him 1,748,642 times on the air and the podcast, and never had a chance to fish with him. And I got to last week, and I wanted to bring Lance on the show to talk about that and more. Sir Lancelot, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mikey. How are you, my friend?
Good. Listen, Charlie was just asking me, he says, how long have you and Lance been talking on the air? How long has it been, Lance?
Gosh.
So I threw you.
Gosh.
I said, I don't know, but Lance will know for sure.
I'm going to tell you honestly.
I love to hear you stammer like this because you never are like this.
Moly.
I mean, it's been 20 years at least. 20 years at least.
At least,
yeah.
All the way back to the original Polarcraft days when you got that first Polarcraft,
yes.
and we rigged that for you.
Yeah.
And I know we knew each other prior to that, so I'm going to say 20, if not 25.
Sure. It's all of 25. Actually, let me think about that Polarcraft. It's all of 30. It's all of 30 years, Lance.
I would tell you, I've been doing this. I did my first real seminar in 1997 for the original Outdoor Ram at the old Walleye place there. That was my first real seminar, and I know we started talking not too long after that. So, it's been probably close to 30 years.
So if it's been 30 years, I must have talked to you the first time when you were 10 years old.
Well, I wish that was true.
Lance, it was,
I wish that was true,
it was such a treat to spend time with you on the water and watch you and see your mindset. Now, I'll be honest with you, the things you were doing, the practice of using jet divers and spoons, when you get right down to it, it was not that different from what I do on those rare occasions when I use jets and spoons. But your mindset, your way of thinking was fascinating. If you don't mind, can we walk through this day a little bit, Lance?
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
The first thing I noticed, we get out there, we're on your angler quest. We got Craig and his buddies for Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. We leave Linwood Beach. We're fishing out of Linwood Beach Marina. We set up, and I'm watching you set that first spread, and you were so deliberate, and you were so specific, and you were in no rush, which most guys I fish with, myself included, is like, let's get lines out. Boom, boom, boom. The faster, the better. You were so deliberate. Why is that?
We talked about it a little bit on the boat. So obviously, you know how to set lines. Craig knows how to set lines. But when I set up my first initial spread, I'm looking for so many things, right? I drop my 2 jet divers on the corners in first. That, number one, gets 2 rods in the water fairly quickly. Number 2, it allows me to see underwater currents. We were out yesterday with some old high school teachers of mine, and instantly I saw we had a current coming from the north to the south yesterday because I've got these 2 lines in on the corner, and all of a sudden I start to see, the one on the north side of the boat is kind of sliding closer to the motor. The one on the south side of the boat is sliding away. So instantly in my head goes, okay, I've got a current. I've got to deal with that in somehow, however that has to happen. Then I put my board, my divers out on boards just outside my lines. Now that lets me see my boards. So now I can start to see, I know my boards should be, and if you saw, I was very deliberate with where those boards were positioned away from the boat. So now I can see, are those boards pulling back further than they normally do? Are they coming forward from where they should be? Because now that tells me if I have a current coming forward or backwards, right? So now I've got rods in the water. Then I went ahead and 2-color lead core and a 3-color lead core. So now I've got 2 other crankbaits in the water at 2 different depths now. And then I did the other thing on the other side. And if you remember, at that point I stopped. Even though we had a bunch of guys, and I think we ended up with 14 rods in the water by the time we were done, I stopped at that point because the last thing I want to do early in the day is get a bunch of stuff out there. Then all of a sudden something starts to work and I want to put more of that. And before I can put more of that out, I got to pull a bunch of crap in. So my first initial set is very deliberate about where I want to fish, what I want to see, what I want to kind of determine. I'm looking at the sonar, that's going to help me determine where I'm going to put my lines. Then I just sit for a minute. Then I just sit and wait until things start to happen. And then if you remember right, we caught some fish on jets and spoons, and we started catching fish on 2 colors lead. So I put 2 more. I put an extra 2 color lead on both sides. So I don't get too excited too early, because you can have too much stuff in the water. If you have too much stuff in the water and something happens, dealing with all that stuff, you don't think about what happened and what the fish were actually telling you at that time. Or you've got some of the wrong stuff out, which is always going to be the case. You're always going to have some of the wrong stuff out. Now you got to bring some of that wrong stuff out to get more of the right stuff back out in the water. So very deliberate with my initial set. And then, once we got going, we had a bunch of rods out, and there was a little bit of chaos every once in a while. And, a tangle or two, which happens with a bunch of rods. But I don't do that right away, because I'm looking for things. I want, is there a current? Are these fish where they should be? I'm constantly looking at the sonar. I'm constantly looking at the side scan. Are there fish here? Are they just on the bottom and just not active right now? Or is there nothing here we might need to pick up in 10 minutes and get out of here? So I'm constantly thinking about what's happening. Too many guys come to the lake with 6 rods. Say there's 2 guys in the boat. They come to the lake with 6 rods all set up with lures on them, and they instantly put them in the water, and they don't even think, right? We kind of caught the front end of the bug hatch. We didn't have the bugs we had this week. Well, this week we had a whole bunch of bugs, so that instantly tells me the downside. So all the crankbaits I ran this week, because I could see the bugs not only on the surface, but I could see the pods of bugs emerging on the sonar, everything went from size 7 to size 5, because once you start to get a bug hatch, the best thing you can do most days in open water is to downsize, right? Started to get some fish in the boat the other day. They were starting to throw up small bait. Okay, so that tells me my number 5s are right. We run small spoons to start. So we start getting bit on the small spoons. That instantly my mind says, okay, smaller crankbaits, 7s at the most, 5s, right? So all those little things, if you've got too much stuff in the water and you're too worried about your stuff, you miss these little details. So you're better off to have less stuff in the water early, understand what is happening, and then get more of the right stuff out. So now you can really maximize your time, as opposed to just dumping a bunch of crap in the water and hoping.
Well, and along this line of being deliberate and taking your time with your initial setup, we got a fish right away. And you said, look, there's a fish on that board, but he's not going anywhere. Let's leave him out there. Why was that? I mean, weren't you worried about losing that fish?
So it's always funny to see guys freak out, and my salmon guys are the worst. They are the worst. The minute a board kicks back, or they want to grab the rod, I'm like, what are you doing, right? Remember, you've got a lot of line out, especially we were running the course. So those fish on the boards, they're not going anywhere. All that fish is trying to do, he hits that bait, he's trying to pull away. The board is pulling forward and off to the side. So every second that line is in the water, with the board pulling forward, the line is getting tighter, the hook is getting deeper, the line is getting tighter, the hook is getting deeper. That fish is going nowhere. Once a fish hits and puts enough pressure to indicate on the board that you have a bite, that fish is either at that point, at that exact second, that fish is either hooked or he's not. You can do nothing about it to make it better. Really, all you can do is make it worse by grabbing the rod and doing something. So I just let them hang there, right? I just let them hang on, pull the board back for 10, 15 seconds. Now I know they're hooked up. If there's any slack in the line, it's gone. I may, in a situation, for trolling slow, I may turn the boat away from the fish, and I'm putting more pressure on that board, more pressure on that fish to get that hook in there a little bit deeper. I may speed up a little bit. Yesterday I had to speed up a little bit because we were fishing a lot of lead core, and the fish were barely hooked. So the problem with lead core is it wants to sink. So you've got a fish coming in. If you're not constantly reeling, that lead core sinks, gets below the fish, and can actually pull the lure out. So I would actually speed the boat up before I handed the rod off, because now that keeps that lead core tight, and we didn't lose as many fish as we would have by not speeding up. So there's a lot of things to think about before you're reeling aboard. The other thing I like to do, especially on Saginaw Bay this time of year, when you're on the bite, you're going to catch them either fairly quickly or start catching doubles and triples. I don't want to start bringing an inside board in or an outside board into the boat and all of a sudden catch a fish on one of the lines between the outside board and the boat, because now I got a problem. Now that fish comes up to the surface, and now I'm trying to bring a line over top. Now I got to tell I'm probably going to lose both fish. So if I'm in a spot where I'm catching fish, chances are pretty good I'm going to catch a second one. Let's let that board hang for a minute. We might catch a fish on the spoon close to the boat. We can get it in, netted, the spoon reset before we even bring that other board in. We may catch 2 or 3 before we bring that board in, and we're still going to have that fish on the boat.
Lance, I got to take a break, but what do you say? Fishing isn't hard, but what?
It is complicated.
It's not hard, but it is complicated, and you can see why. We'll take a break. When we come back, more with Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, thewalleyezone.com, thewalleyezone.com. I want to talk to him about currents, lead core, spoons, and more coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us in the Thumb, Sandusky, WMIC 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And you can hear us, where else can we go? Well, let's call it good for now. No, we can go to Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reeder Landscaping. Reeder can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard as they have for me. And I actually made a call to Reeder just this last week, and I said, hey, the trees, they're not ornamental trees, but they're pretty good sized trees. They're at the corners of the house, and they tend to grow very fast, and they start rubbing against the house, and they get a little bit unruly, and they just don't look good. So every year, the guys from Reeder, and these are hardworking crews, they come out a couple times a year and trim them up. Well, it's time for that once again, so I called them. They said, Mike, we got you on the schedule. We can't tell you exactly what day we'll be there, but we will be there to take care of you, and I know they will. Check them out online at reederlandscaping.com. That's reederlandscaping.com. 60 years in business, so you know they're doing something right. Another person who is doing something right is Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, thewalleyezone.com. I finally had the chance to spend some time on Saginaw Bay trolling for walleye with Lance this past week, and it was a real treat. Lance, let's follow up on some of the things from the first part of the conversation here. You said when you first set your lines, you're looking for current. If you do see current, what does that mean, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for me is current is going to affect the action of your lure, right? So let's just take a scenario like ours. We're going 2 miles an hour speed over ground on our GPS, but if we've got a half-mile-an-hour current that's with us, we're going with that current is actually pushing those baits forward. So the action of that lure, even though our boat's going 2 miles an hour, the action is a little bit less because it's really only going 1.5 miles an hour. We turn around and go the other way, even though our boat's still going 2 miles an hour, that lure is going into a half-mile-an-hour current. So now that lure is actually going faster. It's got like a 2.5-mile-an-hour action to it. So it definitely affects my speed. I may have to go a different speed going one direction as opposed to get the same speed at my lure. If I really see it and I really think it's really bad, I'll drop my fish hawk down and kind of see what it's there. But you can usually see these little subtle currents. Yesterday we had a current coming from we were traveling west-east. We had a north to south current. That means it's going to push the baits off to the side, which means the baits on the north side of the boat are going to be pushed. They're not going to be running quite as fast as the baits on the south side. They're going to be pushed a little bit faster. So you start to catch fish on one side of the boat versus the other, if you need to slow down or speed up. So it definitely makes a difference on what's happening with your lures. You just have to pay attention to it and just kind of watch it a little bit. And as you start to see things happen, adjust and make those adjustments to duplicate what is working and kind of get rid of the stuff that's not working.
Well, and we know speed can indeed make a big difference. The day we were out there, you had to bump down your speed just a little bit, and it changed everything, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And that was part of the beauty of having a network, right? We talked to one of the guys in our group, and he had a few more fish than we did, and one of the first things I always ask when I talk to anybody about fishing, I don't ask them where they're fishing. I really don't care. The questions I want to know is how deep of water are you fishing in? How deep are your lures that are productive, and what speed are you going? Because chances are pretty good if you're in 23 feet of water and you're 5 miles from me, and I'm in 23 feet of water 5 miles away from you like we were that day, I'm in the right spot. I just got to get my speed dialed in and get my lures to the right part of the depth column. So I don't want to know where you're fishing. Those are the three questions I ask. How deep of water are you fishing? What lure depth is the most productive, and how fast you're going? And once I get those little pieces of information, it's pretty easy to dial into catching fish, and you saw it firsthand, right?
Yeah.
We were going, 2.2, 2.3 had been our speed the last couple of days. We were productive, And we talked to one of the guys in our group, which we do, right about 8:15 every morning. Talked to 2 or 3 people in our gang just to see what's going on. They had mentioned they were going right around 2 miles an hour. We dropped the speed down, and I think almost instantly, as soon as we dropped down, we had a fish on. So speed is a huge thing, and getting that information can be huge.
I was a little bit surprised to see you running jets and spoons. I thought you were more of a crankbait guy.
Spoons and jets are amazingly productive, especially when walleyes are eating small bait like they are right now in Saginaw Bay. A little Warrior spoon behind there is a huge thing. And getting those jets, we'll run jets if we're fishing a little bit deeper. If I want those lures down, in that 18 to 20, 22, 23 foot range as we get a little further out, we'll run offshore tadpoles off the corners with spoons on them. But those little spoons really do a great job of imitating small young of the year bait fish, and that's what these fish are eating right now. So those spoons are easy. The jets and the tadpoles are very efficient, very easy to get down to depth. They stay out of the way. We had one on the corner and we never cleared it. We had one on the board just outside that, about 20 feet off the side of the boat. Never had to clear that to bring the other lures in. So they're always in the water. They're easy to get in. You get them in fast, and they fish all the time. So, yeah, I like them. Anytime I'm trolling, even in skinny water, I'll run jet and a spoon back, 12, 15, 17 feet. I like to have those jets and the spoons or the tadpoles and the spoons in the water. They catch a lot of extra fish, and someday that lure, that jet, that diver and a spoon right off the corner of the boat will catch more fish than anything else will. So these fish aren't afraid of the motor. They're not afraid of the boat. It's just a real simple way to get lures in the water really quick, get them to the right depth, and leave them in there. Let them fish while you're catching fish on other things. You always got those rods in the water.
So you'll run spoons and cranks in the same spread?
Absolutely. Yep. The right spoon, the little Warrior spoon is my favorite. The Dreamweaver's DW spoon, or W spoon, the Dreamweaver Walleye spoon is my second favorite. Those two are awesome because they work at any speed. So I can run crankbaits, down to, 1.8, 1.9. If you need to go a little bit slower, that spoon still snaps. I can speed up and run my crankbaits, 2.5, 2.7, 2.8, where we like to run, and that spoon still works. So those two spoons really work really well in the gamut of speed ranges we're going to use, so I never have to change the spoon I'm using. And yeah, I think they're an absolute bonus for a lot of people, and they catch a lot of fish. Let's
talk about a situation we've had on Saginaw Bay lately and down on Lake Erie too, when you get a big bug hatch, mayfly hatch or whatever it is. How does that affect things? I mean, if these fish are feeding on mayflies or whatever all night long, how do you ever get them to hit a bait?
Yeah, we had to deal with that. Actually, we had you, I think, on a Thursday. And I think the following Monday we had the bug hatch.
Yeah.
It was awful. So two things in a bug hatch, right? Actually, there's 3 things. Number one, I'm going to tell you this: you're not going to catch fish early in the morning. I don't worry about catching fish in a bug hatch until 9:15 in the morning. Those fish are going to gorge themselves on bugs all night, probably not stop eating until twilight, until dusk or dawn starts to kick in. They're probably going to eat a little bit past dawn, then they're going to stop. They are not going to be hungry at 7 o'clock. They are just not going to be. So don't worry. If I know I'm going to get a big bug hatch, they're hard to predict, but if I know I'm going to have one, I usually push my start time back to 8:15 or 8:30. I don't worry about that 7 o'clock bite. It ain't going to happen. Those fish are, especially the big fish, they're done. They don't want to eat. So understand your bait, your bite is going to be pushed further into the morning before it starts to get really good. The other option is this. You want to fish smaller baits. That's a key to this. And you really have 2 options: go down close to the bottom and go really slow, or fish the middle part of the water column and keep your speed up a little bit. Right? Those 2 options. I don't like to fish high, because what happens is during a bug hatch, even the shad and the shiners that usually eat plankton, they eat a lot of bugs too. So everything kind of happens in the middle of the water column down in a big bug hatch. You don't get a lot of fish way up high like you will do if you don't have a big bug hatch. You just have a lot of plankton. So bug hatch kind of takes the whole bite, take your depth of water, divide it in half. You want to be from there down. That's where most of the bite is going to be. So it definitely changes my speed a little bit. I definitely use smaller lures. I have a tendency to go a little bit darker lures, a little more subtle colored lures. Coppers and golds on my spoons. Really subtle colors on my crankbaits is a big deal. And then I fish from the middle of the water column down, and I don't worry about an early morning bite. I kind of wait until the morning goes on, and I don't start to worry. And we may have 1 or 2 fish at 8 o'clock. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that bite kicking off until 9 or 9:15 in the morning.
Do you ever fish high? Do you ever fish, say, the top 5 feet?
Yeah, absolutely. If we get a situation where we've got 3 or 4 or 5, 6 warm, hot, flat, calm days in a row, that's the key, is it has to be calm. And I start to see this plankton come to the top, and you'll actually see the shiners and the shad kind of shimmer in the water.
Mm-hmm.
You'll kind of see them off the side of the boat. When you see that, that means they're up feeding on plankton. You need to get your baits up high. You need to get your motor in gear and go, because walleyes are sitting down there 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet down. They're waiting. They're just following those big schools of bait that are following the plankton, and they can just dart in there anytime they want and get one. So you want to run a little bit below that, and I have to run fast because now I've got a bait fish that's out of the way. I got a bait fish or lure that looks like a bait fish trying to run away from a fish, and sometimes you'll create some aggressive strikes from walleyes that maybe don't want to bite, but they're up there chasing bait, and here comes this one that's trying to get away, and their natural reaction doesn't let them get away. So if you get, 3 days is kind of the start. You get 3 days of hot, flat. It has to be calm. That plankton starts to come to the surface. The shiners and shad come up to feed. Walleyes will come right below them and just go crazy.
So are we ever going to get 3 days this summer on Saginaw Bay that it doesn't blow?
This year, we haven't had 3 hours of not windy weather this spring. So I think 3 days is going to be a big ass this year.
when you get those fish up high, then do you send your boards out farther to get them away from the boat?
You know what? It's funny you say that. It doesn't matter. That's when the other day we were running our jets down 60 feet back on the corner rod. That puts them down about 14, 15 feet. I'll run my jets literally in that same 20, 21, 22, 23 water. I'll run my jets back 15 feet. And that puts them down about 8 feet and catch fish on those jets right off the corner of the boat. Sometimes you'll actually physically see the fish come up and hit. Most times you actually know you have a fish because you hear the diver. I fished the 30 jets. I had the little ball in them on purpose because it makes a low frequency sound. Those fish will hit that jet so hard, they'll lift it up. Those fish will come to the surface, and you can literally hear that jet bang on the surface because it's only 15 feet behind the boat. So, I'll still run those jets and spoons. I'll run them fast. That's the beauty of the jet. It doesn't blow out in high speeds. And I'll just run them higher, and I'll run the same spread I run. I just obviously won't run lead core. We'll run crankbaits off to the side and 2 jets, one off the corner and one off a board close, and I'll run them back 12, 15, maybe 18 feet. And
Lance, what do you think of the coveted third? Do you want to stick around?
I was hoping you'd ask. Yes, I'd love to stick around.
There's the sign, Charlie, of a guy who's been on the show too much when he's waiting for the invitation for the coveted third. And by that, I mean the coveted third segment that almost nobody ever gets, but Lance seems to get it more than most. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show on more than 30 stations across our great state of Michigan, including WIOS and Tawas. That's 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. And you can hear us in Saginaw, also twice each weekend on WSGW AM and FM at 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now for these 3 hours. You know I call it the Outdoor Magazine studio. And I got a graphic behind me that kind of cements that. Nobody takes it down. Nobody said, Avery, you can't make that claim, so I think I'm good to go. I'm here with Charlie Rood, who, Charlie, I got to be honest, because the weather is iffy. We've got these squalls that come through, and then it gets sunny, and I just think it's going to get nice, and I look out there, and I think there's going to be people waiting to chant, Charlie, Charlie. There's nobody there, Charlie. It's not because of you. It's because of the weather. Just know that, okay, Charlie? All right. We're talking now with Sir Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, thewalleyezone.com. I had a wonderful opportunity to spend some time trolling for walleye on Saginaw Bay with Lance last week. A couple more things I want to follow up on, Lance. I feel like when we first got started and you were looking to see if there were fish. I feel like you were actually looking at the side scan more than your down scan to check things out. Is that true?
Yeah, that's 100% true, right? You know, we were fishing in, well, let's call it 24 feet of water, a little less than that, but let's call it that. So basically the coverage area on my regular sonar is an 8-foot, maybe even a 10-foot circle, let's call it that. But I'm only looking 5 feet in each direction from the transducer, so I'm not seeing a lot when I'm doing that, right? My side scan, I'm looking 100 feet off to each side, and my side scan shows me a lot of things, right? Not only does it show me fish, not only does it show me bait, the biggest thing that side scan does, and the biggest thing I use it for, is I want to see the activity level of the fish. So I think we were showing Craig and one of the other guys, you know, we were seeing fish on the side scan. We weren't catching any. We were seeing them, but they were just these little bumps on the bottom. And you could kind of see the texture. You could see they were there, but that kind of tells you that they're right on the bottom and they're not active. Then we started to see these little white spots as these fish started to come off the bottom a little bit. Then they started to see these little white spots with a little bit of shadow underneath them, which means they're a little higher. We started catching some fish. Then these little dots of grains of rice, if you will, these dots of white, got a little bit longer, meaning that as we were moving, the fish were moving too, which meant they were active. And those were the little windows we had, those little 10, 15-minute windows. We were catching fish pretty regular. Those fish were up, and then you'd see them kind of drop back, and the process would start over again. So not only can I see fish on my side scan, the biggest thing for me is it shows me their activity level. So a lot of folks will look at their sonar, especially, you know, that little circle, and go, oh, there's nothing here, I'm not going to stop. Side scan tells you a different story and says, yeah, there are fish here. And the biggest thing it does, you know, we didn't move, right? We just made a big circle around an area, and we went through some gaps where we didn't catch fish for a little bit, but there were always fish on the side scan. And you know, this time of year, at some point, those fish are going to rise up. They're going to get active, and we go through a little flurry of fish, and then we kind of get this little flurry of inactivity. You can see that happening on side scan. I call it a bite window, right? You can see these bite windows open and close. And when they open, you got to be ready to maximize the fish you're going to catch, because they're going to close pretty quick. And when they close, you can watch the fish go down. Now, if the fish just go down and stay there, you just stay and wait. If the fish actually move and are gone, now you got to pick up and go somewhere else. But using that side scan not only shows you fish, cover on the bottom, bait fish, but it also, more importantly, shows you the fish's activity. And if you're not catching fish, go, okay, these fish aren't up and moving, I don't need to change anything. Or if they are up and moving and you're not catching anything, now you got to start thinking about your presentation. So it's a big piece of the puzzle to throw into the mix and kind of make good decisions over the course of the day.
I also noticed you were not running tattle flags on your offshore OR-12 boards. And we weren't down on Lake Erie, you know, fishing for double-digit size fish. We're fishing summertime, smaller Saginaw Bay walleye. Why no tattle flags?
You know, I don't run tattle flags a lot anymore, other than if I'm going two times, pulling crankbaits in the weeds, because if I do catch a little bit of a weed, you'll actually see it pull back, or you'll actually see the flag. When I run my flags, I like to run them a little bit tilt back. So if I do get a weed and it makes the weight not run as hard, the flag comes forward, so I know I have a weed. Or if I'm running crawlers, which I very rarely do, I'll run the tattle flag. It's just another piece in the way. It's just another thing. And you saw it, even, you know, we caught a couple of fish we had to throw back on the 2-color lead core, and, you know, you still see the board go back. You know, those offshore boards are balanced so perfectly that even a, you know, 10, 11, 12, 13-inch fish pulls the board back. The nose tips up. It just doesn't run right because they're balanced perfect. So you can actually see those fish without the tattle flag. If you're watching, if you're paying attention, if you noticed, even when I was talking to you guys, it was mostly at the back of the boat, right? I was always looking, you know, side to side, constantly scanning the boards.
Were you talking? Anything. Were you talking while we were out there, Lance?
Yeah, I talk. Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe.
Did you
right?
talk?
But you know, one of the things that trollers do is they don't pay enough attention.
I know it.
You know, how many guys like, oh, I didn't even see that bite. Well, yeah, because you were up there running your mouth, you know, telling stories about whatever. Get back here and watch the boards, because once they get to where they're supposed to be, it's very easy to see them not where they're supposed to be. And that's why I'm very adamant about how far my boards go. My boards, you know, my outside board is always the same distance from the boat. Board 2 is always the same distance, always the same distance, always the same distance, because I stand in the same exact place when I fish.
You know,
so I know what those boards
Lance,
should look
listen,
like.
I got to let you go, but you know what would be an interesting experiment sometime?
What?
And I guess we would have to do it as a podcast and not a broadcast show, because I'm curious, if you and I just sat down and we started shooting the breeze, how long we could actually talk and continue to put out good information. It could be 2 hours, Lance, but that sounds to me like a podcast.
Well, let's talk about that. Maybe we could do a joint broadcast with you and with the Walleye Zone.
All right, Lance, that sounds good. Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone, thewalleyezone.com. You can see why I love to talk with Lance. It was a treat to fish with him. I appreciate him getting us on the water. thewalleyezone.com. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Thank you so much for joining me this week here in the Outdoor Magazine show. I do certainly appreciate it. I don't know if I tell you that enough. I could not do what I am without your support. I would not have been able to be in this business for more than 40 years without, support from my advertising partners and support from you as you've you watched the TV show, you followed me along that path, and I got into radio, you stayed with me there. Now it's radio and social media, you follow me online. Thank you, I appreciate that. It has allowed me to do something that is pretty unique, actually. I mean, to be able to spend this much time doing something that I love so much, that I have a passion for, and I still have a passion for it today. I'm not burned out yet. People say, Avery, when are you going to retire? I don't think I am. I don't think I am. As long as you will continue to support the things that I'm involved in, including listening to this radio show, I'm going to stay with it for a while. So thank you so very much. I do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. I also appreciate the fact that wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar has stuck with me for a few years as well. And he's with us here on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. David, welcome back.
How you doing, Mike? I'm fine.
I am doing just great. I mean, I just had a very, very nice conversation with a good friend of mine, Lance Valentine, about trolling for walleye on Saginaw Bay. And now to wrap up the show talking with you about wild game cooking. It's like, this is great, Dave. I'm doing something I love. And as you know, that is a blessing.
It is, but retirement ain't all it's cracked up to be.
You failed at it.
I did. I failed heavily. So at least I went to work for 3 days only instead of a full-time job. Kevin up there to the dish has been gracious enough to give me 3 days to keep my chops up, so to speak.
The King's Dish in Standish, and he's going to get a bill from me sooner or later.
Right. He told you, come on up.
I know it. Hey, when I heard what you had for us this week, David, I got kind of excited. Not because it's something I fish for, but I think it's kind of an overlooked species. What do you have?
It is. It's a byproduct for trolling for walleyes and sheep's head also, too. Both are great table fare, Mike, as you very well have heard me speak about it in the past.
Yeah. So what do we have this week?
We have a bronzed catfish. And you could actually use a sheephead with this, too, or walleye. I guess it's a trifold technique. So you need about 8 to 10 ounces. It's on page 10 in the cookbook. And you need about 8 to 10 ounces of boneless, skinless filet per person, about a half a cup of blackening spice. You can make your own, or you can buy it through Gordon's or just about any place that sells spices. A couple of beaten up eggs, a tablespoon or so of chopped parsley, flour to dredge, olive oil to saute, and you're going to need butter and white wine and lemon juice to make a sauce with. So once we get the fish in the oven, then we can talk about the sauce. So, and I would say if the fish is real big, like a 10, 12 pounder or even larger, I would use buttermilk to tenderize it because it really helps a lot. It's not that it's strong or anything. It's just it needs to be tenderized. So, like I say, if the catfish is large, you're going to trim away all the visible fat. Do not use any belly fat either because that's where the heavy metals, if there is any in our food chain, would settle. So you want to soak the fish overnight, cut it up serving size pieces like that, 8 to 10 ounces. So soak it overnight, rinse it real good, pat it dry before dredging in the flour. And if the fillets are real thick, say up near the head and at the top part of the body, cut a butterfly at about an inch thick or so it cooks faster. In catfish, you have to cook it a little longer than you would most other fishes because it's a very dense fish. I've noticed it when we did it at the restaurant. Sometimes it might take half again as much longer in the oven than it did if you were using, say, walleye or salmon even, because salmon cooks real quick too. So anyway, you could use salmon in this dish too, I guess. So sprinkle blackening spice on as much of or as little as you like after you dredge it in flour, then beaten up eggs. Put it on a dinner plate. Sprinkle your spices on both sides, and in a medium hot oven with a small amount of, or frying pan, in a small amount of olive oil, brown the fish on both sides. Bake it at 350 degrees until it's done and flaky. It might take 10 minutes or so. And the sauce we're going to be making is got 3/4 of a stick of butter, white wine about 3/4 of a cup, and lemon juice to your taste, and a little bit of diced parsley. So you're going to melt the butter, white wine, and lemon juice. Cook it down. It doesn't have to be fast and furious. Just cook it down till it's thick and creamy. And if it gets a little bit of oily looking, you can add a little splash of white wine or water. Work it in a circular fashion, and what it'll do is it brings it right back to that creamy texture that we're looking for.
We're running out of time, David. Wrap her up.
After the fish is done, spoon the sauce on the plate. Put each portion of sauce on top and top with a little bit of parsley, and it's a wonderful way to utilize some of our less prized fish.
You are the man. You have a great sense of timing, a great sense of time. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. I always thank Dave. I'll thank you again for listening. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. Thank you for your time. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.